Hi everyone, this is Idris Patel from MobiCraze. Today let's do a speed test of between the Xiaomi Redmi Note 3 and the LG G4. I have already posted a comparison video between these two phones, which was quite an interesting video to make because on one hand you have a brand new budget flagship from Xiaomi, which is the Redmi Note 3 with its unibody metal and a quite a fast processor, but a poor camera. And on the other hand, you have the LG G4, which is 2015 flagship from LG, but which interestingly misses out on several features such as a fingerprint sensor, long battery life, and a metal body. So the conclusion was actually quite interesting to shoot because even though the LG G4 is a clearly better phone in several respects, the Redmi Note 3 holds its own in several other respects. The most interesting part of the comparison of these two phones is actually the performance. You see, the processors are quite similar. The LG G4 has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 808 SoC with 1.8 GHz hexa core with 2 Cortex A57 cores and 4 Cortex A53 cores. The GPU is the Adreno 418, and so this is the Qualcomm's second flagship choice for 2015 after the Snapdragon 810. And in real life, the G4 is very smooth and fast. It does not lag at all, except in some weird apps such as the Play Store. On the other hand, the Redmi Note 3 has a brand new chipset, the Qualcomm Snapdragon 650, which is a newer chipset than the Snapdragon 808. It has two Cortex A72 cores clocked at 1.8 GHz, which are newer than the Cortex A57 cores used in the G4, and also 4 Cortex A53 cores. The GPU is the Adreno 510, which provides similar performance as compared to the Adreno 418. So it's quite an interesting match. You also have the two different user interfaces running. The G4 is powered by Android 6.0 Marshmallow with LG UX 4.0 on top, whereas the Redmi Note 3 is powered by Android 5.1 Lollipop, an older version of Android with MIUI 7. So which of these two skins are more efficient when it comes to performance? Let's test it out by doing a speed test. So let's first clear all the apps. As you can see, there are no recent apps here. I have cleared all of them. The Redmi Note 3 is showing 1.4 GB available RAM out of 3 GB because these phones have not actually been rebooted. On a fresh boot, you can expect 1.6 GB free RAM on the Redmi Note 3. So let's now open some common apps to get a good feel for the performance. Let's first open the Play Store. And both of these phones have not actually finished rendering. Quite a terrible internet connection we have here. But even though the LG G4 rendered the initial Play Store UI faster than the Redmi Note 3, when it comes to the final loading speed, the difference was quite negligible. So I would say this is a draw. Let's go home again. Now let us open the Google app. Quite a tough app with Google now, so it takes a while to load. And and I don't know why the G4 is not showing these transitions. It's not showing these news items. Maybe location is stopped. Whatever the case, the Google app comparison was not a really fair comparison. Let's do something else. Let's open Asphalt Nitro, a smaller version of Asphalt 8. So one, two, three. So no difference at all. Both of these phones loaded Asphalt Nitro, sorry, at the same time. And actually, I would have to just close the game because it's not letting me. So let's not actually close the game. Let's let it remain in the memory so we can check the multitasking performance later on. So now let us open the XC currency app, which can again take a while to load. Again, no difference at all. Both of these phones are just as fast. Now let's open Google Chrome, the most popular web browser in Android. See if it performs any faster. You can clearly see the difference in color saturation also in the Chrome icon between these two displays. The Redmi Note 3 is much more true to life, whereas the G4 goes for oversaturation of colors AMOLED style, even though it's not quite as bad as AMOLED. So again, a negligible performance win for the LG G4. Now let us open some web pages and see which of them opens faster. Let's open GSF Arena. And these two pages are still loading, but I don't know why ads are showing on the G4. I'm running an ad blocker here, and again no difference at all in performance. Even though the G4 has a disadvantage, it has to load these ads. Maybe the ad blocker is not working. So let's open something else right now. Let's open Anantech. On the count of three, 1, 2, 3. And you can see the Redmi Note 3 is quite a bit faster this time around. It has already finished rendering the basic page, while the G4 is facing some issues, network issues maybe. But again, Redmi Note 3 still has not quite finished loading the page, and it again must be noted that we have a very terrible poor connection, but the Redmi Note 3 has won already. So this time we for the first time in this race we have quite a noticeable victory. But again, let's not jump to any conclusions. Maybe the network is still not as good as it should be. Let's open maybe the G4 is not opening the page. Let's close it. Let's open another. Let's open Wikipedia this time. Once again, you can see the difference in color temperature between these two displays. Again, this is not really relevant to a speed test, but it has to be noted that the Redmi Note 3 has very true whites, whereas the G4 goes for a colder color temperature. So this time the G4 has rendered the page faster, but the Redmi Note 3 finishes the page loading. Frankly speaking, it finished loading the page milliseconds before the G4, so I wouldn't say this is any type of noticeable performance victory. So let's go home now. Now let's go back to the recent app switcher. Check the RAM management. We've opened Asphalt Nitro. Let's see if it. Let's see if it's still there in the memory. I don't think it's there in the Redmi Note 3, but let's check. And here you go. The Redmi Note 3 may be smoother than the LG G4, but it does have a major. What happened here? It's malfunctioning. I don't know why the game is malfunctioning, but there's a serious problem with the RAM management of the Redmi Note 3. Xiaomi needs to reduce the memory overhead in MIUI 7, because even with 3 GB of RAM, you do not really find enough apps in memory or enough browser tabs in memory as 3 GB of RAM is supposed to have. And as the LG G4 shows us that it is possible to have 3 GB of RAM and store quite a lot of apps in it. So Xiaomi should learn from LG in this area. Let's close the game now. Let's jump to Riptide Gp2. Again, I don't feel that G4 should have any problem here. Uh, so both of these phones had to resume the game, but the Redmi Note 3 actually won by a few seconds. So again, sometimes it happens that the accelerometer of the Redmi Note 3 plays up. Here we are. So regarding the conclusion, I would say in the smoothness aspect, the Redmi Note 3 is quite a bit smoother than the LG G4. In terms of the speed, how fast the apps will open, both of these phones are fairly evenly matched. But when it comes to multitasking performance, we once again find a victor with the LG G4 much more liberal RAM management policies, allowing it to store quite a lot of apps in the memory, and also Chrome tabs. As much as 15 to 16 Chrome tabs can be stored in the memory of the LG G4, whereas the Redmi Note 3 faces some problems with RAM management even after the latest MIUI OTA, which is MIUI 7.2.7.2.3.0. So, because even after having quite a lot of RAM on first boot, which is 1.5 to 1.6 GB, the Redmi Note 3 has to reload apps in its memory. As you can see, it had to reload the Asphalt Nitro game, whereas the G4 had no problem in quite simply opening it from the RAM. So overall, I would say that if you really like multitasking, and if you are a hardcore multitask person, the LG G4 may prove to be a faster phone. But in terms of the general UI usage and the smoothness and the overall speed of the phone, I would say the Redmi Note 3 does manage to score a bit better. Let me give you a quick example of how fast the Redmi Note 3 actually responds to commands. Because of the transitions, these two phones are both slower than they should be, particularly when compared to stock Android phones. But here you can see that the G4 does manage to take milliseconds longer in every basic task than the Redmi Note 3. Something which may prove annoying in the long run, but we are really nitpicking here. So overall, the Redmi Note 3 again impresses when you take the price into comparison, because this is after all a 12,000 rupees phone, whereas the G4 is still last year's flagship, and it does not come cheap. So even the fact that the Redmi Note 3 can equal the LG G4 performance and even better it in some respects is quite amazing on its own. And we have not even taken gaming performance here into consideration. Both of these phones have excellent gaming performance, so with basically no difference and excellent frame rates in basically every single high-end 3D game which we found in the Google Play Store. So once again, a huge victory for the Redmi Note 3, not just account of milliseconds faster, but because of the fact that its value for money ratio is much better than that of the LG G4. But again, the LG G4 does manage to have significantly better memory management, which is still need to improve, which we still feel that it's a huge need for improvement in this area for Xiaomi, with particular with future OTAs, future updates. So the speed test, the overall conclusion of the speed test was that you would not be really disappointed with the performance of any of these two phones. Snapdragon 650 from Qualcomm the Snapdragon 650 processor is really a huge improvement from the Snapdragon 615, and as such can provide a really decent comparison and competition to the Snapdragon 808 in the LG G4. So that's it for today. We will be back with the in-depth review of the Redmi Note 3, which will be the last video I will shoot of the Redmi Note 3, and be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. As always, thanks for watching.